quantulum scientiae periculosissimum est. A little knowledge is a dangerous thing. As we discussed yesterday and today, I tried to get through the point, and I think, judging from what everybody said to me today, everybody got it. But there were definitely people yesterday who didn't. And there is this saying, which I just read in Latin, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. And the bigger comment is, a little learning is a dangerous thing. Drink deep or taste not the Parian spring. Their shallow draughts intoxicate the brain, and drinking largely sobers us again. So, a little knowledge is apt to puff up and make men giddy, but a greater share of it will set them right and bring them to low and humble thoughts of themselves. See, there we are. So, these guys that think that they can learn 3 things and suddenly be off and running are the giddy, intoxicated ones that have just learned the first things they ever knew. I spent nearly an hour putting all this stuff together and then recording it, only to put it on YouTube and have it take a half hour or so to upload and then stall. I canceled it. The second time I tried to put it through, it took more than an hour. When I got to the end of it, they said the format was wrong. So something must be amiss, since I've done this 60 times in the last couple of months. So I am sorry to take so long to get to it, but here we are. There are postings from Q for 869 to 879, which occurred sometime in the last 3 or 4 hours. I think it is exciting stuff. I spend my morning being skeptical. I spent my last few hours in hot anticipation, looking to see what's going to come of it. So the 869 is, there's a picture that shows what looks to be Hong Kong or some East Asian city. And one of the 8chan folks, these guys are so brilliant, they drop stuff in and I play with it and tweak on it, and some of them just come up with stuff. I mean, they were looking at Kuala Lumpur and Vietnam and Saipan and Thailand, even British Columbia, trying to figure out where this was. And finally a guy showed up and said, it's Mongkok, Kowloon, Hong Kong. The street is 240 meters in length, blah, blah, blah. So we know exactly where it was, and my suspicion is that picture was where he was in Hong Kong when he escaped a few years ago. There will be some discussion about that in a minute, but there's even some speculation among the 8chaners that this might have been a picture that Snowden himself took, and that the secret boys we have captured it from him. So who knows what it is. The next quote is, shall we play a game? And this could be a reference to the 1983 movie War Games, in which there's a guy kind of like Snowden, played by Matthew Broderick, who is a young hacker who unwittingly accesses the War Operation Plan response, thinks he's playing a game on the supercomputer, and is actually, which is running a nuclear war simulation, is actually running the real thing. So if that is in fact what Q meant, it may be that Snowden has secret information which may give him access to some of the war simulation or war operation stuff for nuclear. That would be truly scary, and I'm guessing they figured out how to skirt around that. Find at Snowden, which of course they say they have done, IDEN +1, and IDEN is an integrated digital enhanced network, which is the cell phone mobile operations telecommunications used by a bunch of countries, including China and some others. And it may well be that they have located him in ways that he thought they couldn't, or they have located him in China in part through the cell phone business. 872 is hashtag Internet Bill of Rights. That's all that's on it. The next one, he goes back to Snowden, at Snowden, or in other words, paying attention to Snowden. This is probably the most critical thing on this, or at least one of the most. We are going live. -24, comb your hair in a kill box. In other words, we've got you, and we are going to close in on you in the next 24 hours. Now, somebody could say 24 days or 24 months, but I don't think you'd use it that way. So, and then shifting in the same post to the Internet Bill of Rights, it says this scares them more than anything: loss of control. Use logic. Nothing to do with AT&T, who was in favor of the Internet Bill of Rights, which is why I was opposed to it. You know, the enemy of your enemy is your friend. Well, the Internet Bill of Rights can't be my friend if AT&T finds it a friendly place. It says it must be regulated to prevent censorship and narrative push. So, and that is a very important comment, and we'll get back to that shortly. So the next posting is, how did @Snowden clear customs immigration in Hong Kong after the public release? And what the point is here, that we go back to the same comment we made earlier in much earlier posts, which had to do with Snowden escaping through Hong Kong and getting the help and benefit of the CIA, for whom he worked first before he worked for the NSA. And there's much speculation that he was actually working for the CIA while he was working in the NSA, and that he tried to put some blood on their nose to make them look bad, and maybe much more than that. So why wouldn't he first travel to a final destination prior to public release? And there is speculation on multiple ones. Obviously, if you had CIA coverage, you could do whatever you wanted. Secondly, there's also the possibility that the public release was delayed and the CIA actually published it after he left, which takes us back to the last one, where even the possibility that he was video recreated. So that's a possibility. I don't want to get too far out on it, but either he had protection and coverage in Hong Kong, or it was a delayed release. If wanted by the U.S. government, would he be cleared to travel? And the answer, of course, is obviously not. So who supported for the escape? And again, it's probably the CIA. Who was the U.S. after during this time? And this is again a rhetorical question, because the next line is JA, which is Assange, right? Julian Assange. Have you learned, and then / have you learned and eliminated L-6? And when I looked, there wasn't anybody that got it on 8chan. I'm sure others have figured it out by now. But my sense of it is that the dark internet, that this L6 relates to the dark internet. And the stuff that I found on it basically clears us out to understand that the L6 may relate to level 6, which is way down in the dark internet. And the dark internet is typically characterized as the area under the iceberg, and that the place where you and I play is above the water on the iceberg, and that 90% of the space is below water. It is being used by almost 1 million users, whereas the area above is being used by a couple billion. The question is, why don't we have access to it through Google, Chrome, or Opera or Firefox? And the answer is that all that stuff is blocked, either encoded or simply blocked because of content. And so when you and I search for it, we don't find it. And you would have to be capable of encoding or accessing it and that means being more sophisticated. So there are three guys that they clearly indicated would do this. This Ross Ulbricht is a former darknet market operator. He was arrested in 2013. He was convicted of money laundering, computer hacking, conspiracy to traffic fraudulent identity documents, etc., and conspiracy to traffic narcotics in 2015. Julian Assange is also considered to be one of the darknet guys, and so coincidentally is Edward Snowden. And these guys, the deep web that they play in, that you and I don't even know exists, has multiple layers, and these layers, I mean, layer 1 is kind of where we are. Layer 2 you can get to with search engines, certain kind you can't get to with certain search engines, but you can find them through other ways. And then as you start to go deeper, probably level 4, which is the Tor level, where almost everything is encrypted, and this includes stuff for hacker server data, data dealers, illegal experiments, and the WikiLeaks stuff. And then level 6 is rumored to be the most dangerous part of the deep web, and that would be one where perhaps Assange would be hiding things away or transferring things. But here is what the deep web does. Here's some examples of the illegal content, which makes up 95% of the deep web. Satanic rituals. Some of you will get an idea that this links to some of the other stuff we've been talking about. Satanic rituals, live stream gore content, hitmen looking for jobs, terrorist groups and their channels, USA civilian citizenship stuff, hacked credit cards, guide to homemade illegal drugs, how to make bombs, illegal cell phones, etc. that one could buy, human trafficking for sex or pedophilia content, entering radio frequencies, etc., and broad information on UFOs, including Area 51. So this stuff would all be swirling around deep into there, most of it encoded, and most of it not accessible, all of it not accessible to you and me, but it is also a place where people who know what they're doing could be passing this stuff back and forth. And obviously some of the things that we've been really curious about lately and hope to have released include these Satanist rituals, the traffic, and the rest of that. That doesn't mean we want to watch it. What it means is that if some of it is ever released, that people will be in the hot stew, which is what we want them to do. So the next one has to do with, let me back up here and make sure I don't miss it. Who performs at a circus? Who wrote the code to embed and censor across multiple platforms? And we are probably led to believe that Eric Schmidt did, or that his group did, or perhaps Google did, which I'm talking into the mouth of Google, right? So why Russia, why China, why Hong Kong? And this is an interesting link because they say, why did Eric Schmidt arrange a communication link in multiple countries? Learn. Well, why would they? And why would Snowden be in and out of Hong Kong, in and out of China, in and out of Russia? Are those guys linked, and if so, how? And obviously with Schmidt working with the CIA, as we've been told he does, that ties those countries together because the CIA has large presence in at least China, and I don't know about Russia or Hong Kong. So the next one is, there's an anonymous that said Snowden's girlfriend performs in a circus, and Q responds by, the father is who? And everybody looked around, and I think the girlfriend's name is Mills. They'd been together for 5 years or so. She was crushed when he disappeared, when that is Edward Snowden. And this father took questions a couple years ago, and the father, I think, is named Jonathan Mills. Nobody figured out where he was or why he was important, but then somebody came up with the fact that the guy lives in Laurel, Maryland, is located next to Fort Meade. Does that mean anything? Well, maybe not, but it is also a bioweapons research and storage area. So does that mean he's tied in there while Snowden is tied in with all of the rest of the stuff? So the next one is there's a long anonymous comment, and this goes to the Internet Bill of Rights. This anon talks about data mining for ads, losing your privacy, having others communicate and know what you're doing, knowing what you're buying, knowing where you're spending your time. And one of the comments is, you know, we should have the right to our privacy, and we should have the right to disappear. That is, to be anonymous, to be completely transparent when we're on the internet and not have anybody have the right to get to us. And we also should never be censored for free speech. So, and the person goes on to say, our mail, our transmissions on the internet should be treated the same way that U.S. mail is. And as most of you know, you can't open or get into somebody's mail unless you're violating the law without a warrant. And of course, contrarily, the work on the internet, everybody says we have the right to own all your stuff. So nothing's private. And we need to roll that back, and we need to give the same dignity to internet presence of citizens as we have with the U.S. mail. I mean, our founding fathers provided privacy for mail. Mail, as you might remember, Benjamin Franklin was the postman for several states and helped set a lot of that up. And the issue of privacy and having a search warrant was very live at the time that our Constitution and Bill of Rights were formulated. So the next one is Q responds to that anon by saying free speech does not apply to a private company setting, which of course is the response that Google and Facebook and Twitter and all these guys give. We're just a private company, and these guys have signed off all their rights, so all this stuff is ours to play with, to mine, to sell, to trade, and to also coincidentally hand over to the three-letter agencies. So the risk for them is loss of revenue, backstopped by the circus, which is the CIA. Learn. Social media control is everything. The age of MSM is over. So, we have these things which it is not only the loss of revenue and sending stuff to Sears so that they know to send me a notice that I want t-shirts for the spring and that I would like aqua, but it is also that they're selling this stuff, this information, to the CIA, or are being paid for it being transferred and logged against us in these settings. So we, in effect, by paying through the CIA, are paying for people to mine our information. That's at least how I see it. The question of the age of the MSM is over, and I was thinking today about the fact that we don't really have day-to-day news. We lament that the only news we get on these bogus banner events that go on in Florida and Mandalay Bay and the rest of that is the ones that go through the mainstream media. And if we had a proper outlet, a proper platform, we could have all kinds of news postings that would be available 24/7 and would allow for independent news people to post their information. Now, obviously, some of those people would not be reputable and not be properly vetted, but it's a great deal better than not having anything at all, and we would quickly come up with standards that would see to it that what we watched and read, for the most part, was verifiable, and we truly need it, and we need to have it shift out from under the mainstream media. The next one is, do you trust Sessions? Boom. Well, hey, if this is a boom, let's see it. I'm all ready for a boom, and I'm all ready to see Sessions in a status, in a position of authority and with clear oversight. And I have to tell you, speaking from the other side of it, that I know how painful it is to be Sessions in a very small way. And that is to say, when you are a prosecutor or when you are dealing with a private matter, you have no right to speak about it. And technically, as you should not, as a representative of the government, leak stuff or intimate stuff that had not been proven in court. And while you are checking things out, you are simply bound to hold your voice. And so, if in fact he's doing great things, it has to be painful, because he goes to bed at night knowing that everybody's beating up on him, and if he could only tell them what he's doing, they'd stop beating up on him. So that's the flip side of it. So the next one is, set the stage, POTUS. Do you believe, ? Buckle up, Q. So here's the deal. If in fact this is really coming live, we've got real stuff going on, folks. There is also, in the middle of this one of these other posts, there are two pictures apparently in China, showing one of them showing a high-rise apartment building, and the second one is a close-up with a light on in the middle of the night. And the post says, someone was up all night running, live shot, we know your move. So apparently they're waiting for somebody, perhaps Snowden, to make his move. Well, that's the news across the nation for today. And remember again, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. Let's not stop there. Thanks. If you like it, give a thumbs up. If you'd like to subscribe, I'd love it. Hang in, give me information. And when I screw up, as I did this morning and elsewhere, let me know. It's all good. Thanks.